If I start doing hard intervals in the aero position, would I be shortchanging my results by not applying as much power as I can upright? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, as I have a physiology background, but I'm relatively new to cycling. He says, obviously the aero position has a ton of benefit in a triathlon. I just don't know if it's a good idea to use it for those more intense intervals. I'll probably repeat the test in an upright position soon to see the difference. I'm guessing that the upright score would be more beneficial to my training in general, but not sure. So please let me know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is a this is a topic we've discussed and kicked around quite a lot, so it's not something we take lightly. We don't just throw a quick solution at it and just say that's it, we're right, we've figured it out. We've actually given this a lot of thought, and it kind of boils down to training the position versus training the physiology. And when we talk about training the position, that's the specificity that we're talking about, Jared's talking about.
Yep.
So and that's the crux of it. That's what we have to decide. Where do we draw the line? The physiology. If you just attack the physiology, sit upright, try to maximize the adaptation. That makes sense, right? That you're going to utilize a higher percentage of your oxygen uptake, so it's a greater stimulus. Therefore, derives with proper recovery, a better adaptation. But you can take cross-country skiers, for example. They generate massive oxygen uptake because they're employing a lot of muscle mass in a very specific manner. Does that mean that will make them a better bike rider? Probably not, because it's very not specific. So the muscles that are doing the job cross-country skiing aren't the muscles that you're going to employ on the bike. By that same idea, the muscles you apply you're utilizing in an upright position versus one in an aero position, it might not translate as well. So it's really hard to say one is absolutely better than the other, but we are leaning towards specificity. If you're going to have to race in this position, it does make sense to train in this position. If you're going to do high intensity efforts in this position and it comes at a lower power output, but that power output is specific to the position you're going to use in a competition, that makes sense to us. So,
especially if you're a triathlete, where it's only that.
Yeah.
I would say if you're a 40K time trialist and that's your A2. Maybe not, though, if you're let's say you're a road rider.
Stage racer.
And your TTs are going to be part of it. But
totally.
Yeah, right? Then maybe on that I would be sitting
That's a strong case for absolutely sitting up and maximizing the physiological adaptation, not worrying so much about the specific position.
Because you're going to be using that on all your road racing.
Right.
Yeah.
I think discussing the delta that he would have between the upright
so
and
that's
aero position.
We'll get to that. Let's
Okay.
first talk about, just keep in mind what your goal is, and your goal is to become a faster triathlete. It's to maximize race performance. So how do you have to decide what's going to work better. And again, we lean more towards this more specific training in the more specific position, even if that's your higher intensity workouts.
That makes sense.
So we're looking at the line is between sitting higher and generating more power, but that does require more energy and inspires more fatigue. So there's even that to weigh against it.
Totally.
Whereas if you stay lower and you're more aero, you utilize less energy. That's less stress on the body, which could lead to a stronger run in the case of a triathlete.
So what you're saying too is you might actually put out less calories, use less glycogen.
Just a less of a toll on your body in general,
which is just huge in triathlon.
Yeah,
absolutely
Extremely important.
So we did, however, kind of put a hard line on where we say, you're good. There's a difference between your upright FTP and your aero FTP. Don't sweat it unless you've reached this point. And we feel like 5% is a pretty reasonable difference between the two. If there's a 5% discrepancy between your upright position and your down low position, you're probably fine. This is something you can probably overcome by the time you work through the base, build, and specialty cycle.
Which is how we separate our training plans into 3 sequential phases.
Exactly. And if you don't, and that 5% discrepancy stands, it's what we consider to be minor and not worth concerning yourself with. But you push above that, and that's when it's probably time to start considering, what's wrong with my position. Maybe it's a little too severe. I'm working way too hard for the actual speed I'm garnering. It's a really tough physiological toll. The power's there, but man, it destroys me. Or the power's just not there because my position is just too harsh.
For triathlon, you might have a really closed off hip angle too, which can be pretty difficult to just get out and run based off of that too.
And what some triathletes do to overcome this is you build into your position.
And
so instead of just going slamming it down and you see you have lost 12% power, you start to lower it slowly, and you as you adapt, and you get better at it, then you just come down 2.5 or 5 millimeters.
We did this very thing with the 40K TT trial. I started with a really high stack on my aero bars, and then each week I would take out 5 millimeters. and then see how that went. And
that's even pretty fast each week.
And it was, and that's what I found too. Because I came down 15 over the course of 3 weeks, and then I had to come back up. And I feel like if I had done that slower, I probably could have managed that 15 millimeter drop if I had taken a little more time getting used to it.
If you had a lot of time, I would do it like 5 millimeters every year. Like seriously, like if you got like a 4-year plan to qualify for Kona, in 4 years you drop 20 millimeters. Like,
significant amount, but it won't have a profound effect on your training.
Exactly. And maybe there is then it's easier too to notice if you have a huge, like an inflection point where you drop off, but don't feel like you have to rush it. The position, it's so, if you, on triathlon, there's the really fast people, they can stay in position, then you go back in the back of the pack. So many people are sitting up because they're uncomfortable.
Oh, totally.
Like, and you are going, it would have been so much better to have like huge spacers and just stay aero that whole time than to be super pinched off and then ride half the race sitting up.
Or to even stay low the whole
100%.
race, but just become increasingly uncomfortable and watch your power just slip, and your perceived exertion just climb.
That'd be terrible.
The run gets so hard.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Actually, you are really excited for the run. I think I've mentioned this before, but about 5 hours into an Ironman bike, you're like, you know what? I'm really a runner.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a biker. This run is going to be the thing.
I'm ready to get off this bike.
So Nate touched on the fact that if you're going to make changes to the bike, it can be a really gradual process if you have the luxury of time. Same with the actual work or using the workouts to adapt to your position too. You don't have to, if you have a set of 3 20 minutes sweet spot repeats, you don't have to get down there for 20 minutes and just make it last regardless. Get down for a minute, sit up for a minute. Maybe break it down into different spans of time. So you minute down, minute up, minute down, minute up. Then that grows to 90 seconds down, 90 seconds up, etc. I mean, you can play with that and get used to longer durations in that position. And then when it comes to the more intense stuff, like if you do decide to do your VO2 max work, 120%-ish intervals in that low position, maybe you just start the first 30 seconds in that low position, and then you come up when you're starting to run out of air, or you finish in that low position when you're motivated by the promise of the end of the interval. So there are a lot of different ways to gradually ease into sustaining that position and still putting out close to upright FTP.
Yeah.
We're talking about, that's called like a first level bailout. So obviously we would prefer you to stay in aero position the whole time. But if you can't do it,
don't turn down the intensity. Change your position first.
Exactly. And then work into that.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And then after that, maybe take a quick back pedal if you need to. If the back pedal doesn't work, then maybe you need to turn it down.
Or you could skip an interval, depending on what we've talked about this a million times.
A lot of different ways to.
Yeah. If it's Bill Atz, you might be skipping a interval back pedaling.
Single.
Yep.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.
If you think I have better hair than Jonathan, give it a thumbs up. If not, leave a comment.
My hair is better than his.